There are moments in life when the entire world around us seems to come to a halt, only a single phrase, a glance, or a small gesture remains, enough to stir a heart that seemed frozen. Today's story is about a successful, cold CEO, who owns everything people dream of, and a poor boy, who has nothing but a sincere heart and eyes full of hope. They come from different worlds, but a single encounter changes both of their lives forever. That boy punched through the cold heart of the most powerful man in the city, not with a fist, but with words so honest they were heartbreaking. If you believe that emotionally rich stories can touch hearts, change minds, and make this world a better place, then hit subscribe to the Heart Glow channel right now. That's how you can help spread humanistic values and join us on a journey to awaken love. New York City on a fall afternoon, the sky was overcast, and a cold wind blew through the skyscrapers, carrying with it a dense rain, as if trying to blur all the boundaries between the people and the city. The sound of rain tapping on rooftops and the streets blended with the noisy honking of cars. Amidst the rush of people hurrying from buildings to their luxury cars, a little boy stood in the middle of the street, his small body frantically running in the rain. Wearing old clothes and torn shoes, the boy seemed not to feel the cold. With only one goal in mind, a man in a luxury car slowly driving past him. It was John Matthews, the famous CEO of a large financial company, a man everyone in the city knew. In that moment, when the luxury Rolls-Royce stopped at the red light, the boy ran towards it, his cold hands gripping John Matthews' sleeve, his wide eyes full of hope. The boy looked up, his eyes squinting in the rain, his lips trembling as if unable to speak, but trying to wipe away his tears. Rain poured heavily on his face, but perhaps he didn't feel it, only the urgency and worry for his mother that made him unable to step back. "Sir, please help my mother, she's about to die." The boy choked, his voice full of desperation. His pleas shattered in the misty air of the city. His eyes remained fixed on the man he had seen in newspapers and on TV, a man he only dared to dream might help him. The boy didn't know who John Matthews was, but he believed that only someone like him could save his mother. The atmosphere around them grew eerily silent. The people around them kept rushing, but only the boy and the man in that car seemed like two strangers facing each other in the flow of life. John Matthews looked down at the boy, his gaze cold and indifferent. He didn't have time to listen to the stories of those outside of his world, people who held no value in his life. He was too busy with work, with important meetings, financial decisions that, if wrong, could cost thousands of jobs. Who was this boy? A poor child trying to grab attention in such a crowded city. John shrugged, yanked the car door shut, his eyes still indifferent. "I don't have time for personal matters." His words passed by, emotionless, like the rain that kept falling to the ground. The boy stood there, still clutching the sleeve of his coat, his eyes pleading. But John Matthews turned away, never once looking back. The car lights lit up, and just a second later, the luxury car sped off, leaving the boy standing silently in the rain. The car sped down the street, kicking up a wave of rainwater from the road. The blaring horns of cars, the hurried pedestrians, it all seemed like life was going on without a care, unaware of a boy crumbling in the rain. The boy stood there, unable to move, his hands still reaching out in despair, but the car had disappeared around a corner. The rain fell harder, obscuring the crowded streets. In that moment, the boy felt so small, a grain of sand among countless others. No one came to save him, no one listened to his cries for help. He knew that in this world, no one could help him. It was then that he realized the loneliness and helplessness that he had never truly felt until now. When the Rolls-Royce disappeared, the boy stood there, watching the silhouette of the luxury car fade in the rain. The scene sharply divided into two: on one side, indifference, cold decisions, people living in luxury and power. On the other, a helpless child abandoned in the rain, unnoticed by anyone. This city, where everyone rushed by, where everything seemed to have a price tag, was dividing two worlds: the world of the powerful and the world of the weak and poor. The luxury cars, the skyscrapers, all seemed like walls separating different fates. The boy stood there, a clear reflection of the injustice and indifference of society. In that moment, he felt the despair spread, as if there was no escape for people like him. That day, the rain was not just an ordinary rain. It planted the seeds for a great change in John Matthews' life. The boy, with eyes full of desperation, his sincere and hopeful gaze, left a deep mark on his mind, even though he didn't want to admit it. John Matthews was a man who knew nothing of true love, who didn't understand what family bonding was. His act of walking away and refusing to help the boy marked a heart that had long been unloved and uncared for. But the price of indifference was inevitable. When coldness continues to exist, when the human heart continues to close, the price is not only loneliness, but an endless emptiness within the soul. And the boy, no one knew that he would return, would unexpectedly and painfully become part of John's life. But for now, only the rain and silence remained, with everything else just a meaningless void. Months later, John Matthews attended a charity event organized by his company, a large gathering that attracted influential figures from society. Everyone around him was busy discussing major projects and donations. But amidst the bustling crowd, there was a small figure that John Matthews immediately recognized. It was the boy he had met in the rain the previous month, the boy he had refused to help. This time, the boy was no longer standing alone by the roadside in the rain, but was standing right in the center of the event stage. His face no longer filled with fear as it had been before. He stood there, almost as an integral part of the ceremony, and despite being surrounded by wealthy and powerful people, he did not tremble. His gaze was no longer one of pleading, but one of determination, a maturity unexpected in a child. John Matthews couldn't take his eyes off him. Though the boy seemed to have changed, in his heart, the confusion and guilt still lingered, unable to be erased. Suddenly, in the solemn atmosphere of the ceremony, the boy stepped forward toward where John Matthews was standing. His eyes no longer looked down but met his directly. There was no fear, no trace of weakness in that gaze. The boy looked at John Matthews with maturity, as if nothing could unsettle him. The audience fell silent, waiting. Then, the boy spoke, "Your money means nothing if it doesn't save anyone." His words were brief but powerful, like a bullet piercing John Matthews' heart. The entire hall was taken aback, with eyes shifting from the boy to the man standing silently under the spotlight. His words served as a wake-up call, prompting everyone, especially John Matthews, to question themselves. It seemed that the numbers and financial meetings he was always consumed with suddenly became meaningless in that moment. This boy, with a simple sentence, had brought back thoughts he hadn't entertained in a long time. John Matthews stood frozen. The boy's words echoed in the space like a punch to his chest. The numbers, the achievements he was so proud of, the multi-million-dollar contracts he thought would bring him happiness, all of it suddenly felt meaningless. The words weren't just a criticism of his indifferent wealth, but a reminder of the true value of money. In his eyes, what he had now were no longer material possessions, no longer luxury cars or skyscrapers. They were just lifeless things if they couldn't save anyone. If they couldn't bring hope to those in need. He stood there, stunned, under the gazes of the audience, who now looked at him without admiration, but perhaps with judgment. The boy's gaze had shattered the cold shell he had built around himself. The silence in the hall seemed to stretch on forever, and John Matthews felt a lump form in his throat. Those words, though brief, made him feel as though something within him had shattered. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath in that moment. The whispers of those around him ceased, and all eyes were on the boy and John Matthews. The boy's words had stopped everything. Mobile phones were now being raised, people turning to capture this moment. But amidst the attention of everyone, only John Matthews stood still, his heart feeling suffocated. Everyone around him, a man of power, was looking at him, with a face that showed no emotion, but he knew they were judging him. The boy's gaze, no longer filled with fear but only courage, had made him face himself. Face the mistakes he had made, face the indifference he had accepted for so many years. A moment of silence, choking with emotion, between a passionate child and a man who had long lived in apathy. And then, the boy walked off the stage, not looking back, but his presence had left a profound mark in John Matthews' heart. After the event ended, John Matthews quietly left the hall. People around him seemed to still be chatting happily, but he felt detached from that world. As he stepped out of the door, he couldn't escape the boy's words, "Your money means nothing if it doesn't save anyone." It kept repeating in his mind every night, each time he closed his eyes. He returned to his luxurious mansion, but instead of feeling comforted, he felt empty. There was no joy in work calls anymore, no excitement for lavish parties. Those words felt like a wound in his heart, a wound that couldn't heal. He couldn't forget the image of the boy in the rain from the previous month, and now, the boy's mature gaze. John Matthews couldn't sleep, questions about life, money, and the true value of existence swirled in his mind. Had he lived right? Did he truly understand the value of life? The boy, with his simplicity and sincerity, had done what the entire world, with all its power and influence, couldn't do. He had awakened a heart that had been closed off for so long, a heart that had forgotten humanity, forgotten that life isn't just about money, fame, or power. The boy's words served as a powerful reminder that we need to remember the things that truly matter: love, care, and the ability to help others. In that moment, John Matthews realized that he had lived too long in a cold shell, too long immersed in material things without realizing that life would be empty without humanity. And from that moment, a new journey began, a journey to rediscover himself, to find the lost values in his life. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with the program, we kindly ask you to leave a comment and share your thoughts in the comment section. If you find the program meaningful, please feel free to share it to support the channel and spread its value to those around you. We wish you all an insightful listening experience. As he entered the luxurious room with shiny desks, crystal lights shining down on the contracts, the CEO couldn't help but remember the hard times of his own life. The image of a tiny boy, with thin arms, struggling to sell candy on the streets, eyes never leaving the disdainful looks of passers-by, suddenly flooded back to him. He remembered the hungry nights, unsure of what to eat, where every meal was a luxury. His heart sank. It was poverty, those moments of rejection, that pushed him into a battle with life. And eventually, it closed off his heart. Much like that poor boy today, he had once been lost in a crowd, with no one to help him, no one to see his pain. Every time he saw children like that, he saw a part of his childhood in them. These were memories that could never fade, a part of him that no matter how hard he tried to forget, he never could. The boy's words kept echoing in his mind, "Your money isn't worth anything if it doesn't save someone. It wasn't just the words of a child, it was a call from the past, from the very heart he had unwittingly forgotten over the years. The more he thought about the years gone by, the more he realized something clearer than ever: to climb to the top of his career, he had paid too high a price. To achieve the success he had today, he had to sacrifice so much. He no longer knew what human connection was, no longer felt the simple joys, no longer had happy moments in close relationships. All he did was work and attend meetings, deal with contracts and papers. And while he was successful with numbers and achievements, his heart had been frozen long ago. It no longer had the capacity to feel warmth or love from others. Those human emotions, he had forgotten. All that remained was a cold, distant ego. Every morning when he entered his office, his desk was filled with papers, contracts, and documents. Everything was neatly organized and perfect. But when he looked at those things, he only saw emptiness. Even if he sat down to examine everything carefully, he could no longer feel the joy in his work. Everything was like the fragments of a building too old, no longer alive. Everything was just for show, just to cover up a void in his soul. Every signature on the contracts no longer brought him a sense of accomplishment or happiness, but only another step in the endless race he had fallen deep into. He felt like a puppet, controlled by relationships and responsibilities, with nothing left but work. The coldness in his heart had covered everything, leaving no room for emotion but emptiness. One evening, as night fell and everything in the company grew quiet, he sat alone in his office. It seemed that there was something he could no longer keep inside. Thoughts of the boy, of himself, of all he had overlooked, pulled him into a deep place he had never faced before. The storm in his heart broke out, and he realized that he had lost himself a long time ago. Tears unexpectedly welled up in his eyes, even though he didn't understand why. He didn't cry for the losses in his work, not for any great loss. He cried because he realized that he had given up too many things, had ignored his true self. He had lost the ability to feel, lost the ability to love and be loved. Those tears couldn't fully express the sorrow in his heart, but at least, they were a wake-up call. A sudden decision appeared in his mind, like a flash of light in the dark. It was a simple yet powerful thought. He realized that in order to save himself, he had to save other children. The children like he had been, the poor, abandoned ones, with no one to support them. If he couldn't do anything to save himself in the past, at least he could help these children now, so that no one would have to repeat his fate. I must find the child within me, he thought, and I will do this by helping other children. That decision burned like a fire in his soul, rekindling what had been forgotten for so many years. The next day, he decided to change everything. No more long meetings, no more numbers and contracts, he would find himself again through concrete actions. This decision was not just a change in his work, but a change in the way he saw life. He wanted to be a real person, not just a boss with a famous name. Gradually, he began to reach out to charity organizations, participate in activities to support poor children, and start doing things he never thought he would do before. It was not an easy step, but it was the path he chose to find himself. Starting with small actions, he realized that a person's true worth is not what they achieve, but what they give to those around them. And through this process, he gradually returned to himself. That day, when he stepped into the hospital, he was overwhelmed by the scene of poverty and backwardness. The entire building seemed like a chaotic mess, with faded walls, rickety, broken beds. The pungent smell of antibiotics mingled with the stifling air in the narrow corridors. The few machines present were old and broken, seemingly incapable of saving anyone. This was not a place he was familiar with, it was not a hospital for wealthy people like himself. But remembering the boy's words, "My mom needs help, but no one can help," a pang of sorrow pierced his heart. Memories of his own mother, who had always struggled to give him a better life, suddenly surged within him. At that moment, he realized that nothing in his life, from his career to his wealth, mattered when faced with the suffering of those in need, especially this mother. He walked in, feeling the stillness, yet the weight of it, as if the air was thick with despair. Entering the patient room, he saw the mother lying there, her face hardened with the wrinkles of pain and time. She lay still on the bed, her hand tightly holding the boy's, an instinctive reaction to show the love that would never fade. Though her body was frail, she still managed to smile gently, lovingly, full of hope. Her breath was labored and intermittent, each inhale a struggle to maintain life. The boy sat by her side, his eyes fixed on her, silent, but the worry was evident in every movement. The mother kept reassuring him with weak words, trying to make him feel at ease. But it was clear her health was failing. That fragile smile, though weak, was full of strength and made his heart ache. Everything he had overlooked, the pains he had never felt, suddenly became a reality right before his eyes. For the first time, he felt powerless. Money could not save a life, nor could power change what was irreversible. Standing motionless, he couldn't stand still any longer. His vision blurred, a bitter feeling suddenly welled up in his chest. He knew he couldn't change the past, couldn't bring back what was lost. But he could do something for this mother, for this boy, to at least give them something better in their current circumstances. Without a word, he took a check from his wallet, his fingers signing it automatically, without hesitation. It was a large sum, enough to cover all the treatment costs, but he knew that wasn't the issue. It wasn't money that would save this woman's life, but his actions that mattered. "I will cover all expenses," he said to the boy, his voice calm, full of resolve. The boy looked up at him, his eyes wide with surprise. It seemed he didn't understand why someone like him would do this. But in that moment, the man could see a sense of relief slowly returning in the boy's eyes. It was a new hope, a life being reborn in a difficult situation. At that moment, he didn't need cameras or reporters taking photos. He didn't need stories of charity or praise for his actions. All he did was a simple act of redemption. Redemption not only for this mother but for himself as well. He had spent his whole life chasing success, money, and power. But now, he realized that all of those things were just a facade covering up a person lacking in love. And this redemption wasn't for praise or admiration from society, but to rediscover his own humanity. He wanted to redeem himself, help himself find the values that had been forgotten. The checks, the large sums of money, could no longer fill his heart. Only simple acts, coming from the heart, could bring true peace. The boy stood there, silent, just looking at him with a different gaze. His eyes no longer reflected anger, disdain, or resentment, feelings the man had noticed before. Instead, there was expectation, a newly kindled trust. The boy didn't need explanations or reasons from him. He knew that not everything could change immediately, but the man's actions had changed the way he saw life. The boy no longer saw him as a stranger or the one who had abandoned him before. Instead, in those eyes, the man saw hope, hope for a better future, hope for someone who could change his and his mother's fate. He didn't say anything more, just stood there, feeling the silence, yet it was full of meaning. And in that gaze, he felt something very special. It was perhaps the first time in his life that he truly felt he could bring about change. His feelings at that moment were hard to describe. Everything seemed to stop. Standing in that run-down hospital room, looking at the mother lying still on the bed and the boy standing beside her, he suddenly realized that he wasn't just saving someone else's life. He was saving his own soul. This act, though small, was the most important thing in his life. It didn't just help the mother and the boy, but it helped him understand that there are values money can't measure. And the most important thing in life is to know how to love and share. He couldn't change the past, but he could start again from here. He had saved himself from the shell of success and power that he had built around himself. In that moment, he realized that nothing was more valuable than the redemption of one's own soul. After deciding to help the mother and son, he didn't stop at just covering the medical expenses. He started visiting them regularly, as a way to truly become a part of their lives. Every time he came, he brought small gifts, little joys, not money or material things, but genuine care. One day, he decided to learn how to cook, something he had never thought about before. In a small kitchen of their modest home, he made simple dishes, but full of enthusiasm. The boy enjoyed watching him focus on stirring the pot, but perhaps what made the boy feel most special was his presence. He wasn't just someone who appeared when help was needed. He was someone who truly cared for them. Every evening, he told stories of faraway adventures, of strange lands, of memorable people. These stories weren't a waste, they were a connection, a bridge between a man who had once lived alone and a boy who had never known love from a father. Gradually, these stories became more than just entertainment, they were lessons on perseverance, kindness, and responsibility. At first, the boy was wary, even anxious when he saw him. He didn't understand why a wealthy man would care about him, why he would spend time with his mother. He feared that this attention would be like all the times before when others entered their lives and then quickly left. But slowly, the boy began to realize that his attention was genuine. Every time he visited, the boy received a little warmth, a little comfort. He began to smile when he saw him, his eyes brightened when he heard the stories he told. One day, when he visited, the boy grabbed his hand, looked at him with trust, and softly said, "Uncle." That was when he understood that he had earned the boy's trust. And not long after, when they sat together on a warm evening, the boy suddenly called him Dad. That call was not a random cry. It was a deep connection, a wordless emotion, a relationship that had been built over time, through care and unconditional love. He couldn't hold back his emotions, choking up when he heard those words, feeling his heart swell. It was the moment he knew that he was no longer just someone offering help but an important part of the boy's and his mother's life. From the lessons on forgiveness and compassion that he learned through his journey with the boy and his mother, he decided he had to do more to help people like them, those who had been abandoned and forgotten by society. He didn't want to be just a man living in the shell of wealth and power. He wanted to do something meaningful, to make up for the mistakes of his past and to create real change for the lives of others. He founded a charity called The True Value of Money, with the goal of helping those who had been abandoned, those living in poverty, and families unable to provide health care or education. This foundation not only offered financial assistance but also expanded into vocational training programs, job opportunities, and community awareness campaigns. Each project the foundation undertook aimed to change the lives of those left behind, just as he had once been a part of that neglect. At this point, He wasn't just providing opportunities for others, but also rediscovering himself, finding the true meaning of life that he had once overlooked. One day, when he visited the boy's mother at home, he sat down next to her, looking into her eyes, filled with thought. His heart suddenly tightened when he thought about the past, when he had abandoned her and the child, all because of personal ambition and selfish desires. He realized that for all these years, he had lived like an insensitive person, chasing after wealth and power without caring about the true values of life. He turned to the boy's mother, his voice full of emotion. "I once forgot that. The heart needs to be nourished just like the body." These words were not just an apology, they were a confession of his mistakes. He wasn't just apologizing to her, it was also a way of forgiving himself. The mother didn't say anything, but her gaze was gentle and understanding. She didn't need him to say sorry because she understood that the change in him was the greatest apology he could offer. One weekend, he decided to take the boy's mother and the boy to the park. It was their first time going out together, enjoying a day full of joy, and also the first time he truly felt that life wasn't just about meetings, business deals, or lifeless numbers. At the park, the three of them sat on a bench, eating ice cream and chatting happily. The boy started talking to him about the new hobbies he had begun to explore, while the mother shared memories of the boy's childhood. The photos taken in that moment were not just to preserve memories but a testament to the change in their lives. Simple, warm photos, with no need for grand ceremonies or big events. They were simply precious moments shared by all three of them, proof that he had become a part of this family, a father, a friend, a companion in their lives. Looking back on his life, he realized that throughout the years, he had been consumed with chasing what society defined as success, money, power, and fame. But now, he understood that none of those things mattered compared to the genuine love he had received from this new family. It wasn't money, but love and care from the heart that were the most valuable assets he had ever had. He no longer longed for material wealth but only wished to dedicate his heart to loving and caring for those he held dear. In those simple moments with his family, he found the peace he had never known before. And that was the moment he realized that love and compassion were what would take him further, helping him become the man he had always wanted to be, a true father. A year has passed since the boy started calling him Dad, and their lives have completely changed. The boy, now a mature teenager, stands on stage at his graduation ceremony, a bright smile on his face. Today is not just his day, but the day for their entire family. As he steps up to the podium to speak, his father's and mother's eyes are fixed on him. The boy has grown, not only physically but also mentally. His eyes are filled with pride, but also with deep gratitude. He begins his speech with a confidence no one had ever expected. The words he speaks resonate through the room, not just as thanks to his teachers and friends, but as a special tribute to his father, the one he never thought he would have. "There was a time I was angry with you," he says, his voice choking. "But I understand now, everyone deserves a second chance." Those words were like a powerful push, making everyone in the hall reflect deeply. They were the sincere words of a boy, now grown, who understands the value of forgiveness and second chances in life. And his father, the father he had always been searching for, now realizes that nothing is more precious than sincere love and the opportunities life has given them. As the boy says those words, his father can't hold back his tears. But these tears are different from those of regret or guilt, they are tears of relief and peace. He remembers the time when the boy was young, and he was a detached man, living in his own world without caring about those around him. But now, hearing the boy speak these words, He understands that the suffering of the past was just a necessary step to bring them together, to a love and understanding that runs deep. The boy has grown not only physically but spiritually, and it is because of his father's love and forgiveness that he has found himself. Those words mark the end of a turbulent past and the beginning of a new journey, where the boy is no longer an angry child, but a mature person who cherishes what he has and the opportunities life brings. When the boy finishes his speech, his father's gaze is no longer that of a man regretting past mistakes, but that of someone who has found peace within himself. For him, this graduation ceremony is not just a significant event in the boy's life, but a moment that marks a change in his own life as well. For the first time in his life, he doesn't feel alone, he doesn't feel he needs to achieve anything to prove his worth. He is no longer a powerful CEO, no longer a man racing against time and career. He is a father, someone who has gone through challenges and suffering, and now can proudly watch his son grow up, confident and loving. His tears are not from being moved by success, but from the peace he has found in love and connection with his family. These tears, for him, are proof of a life that has changed, from a detached man to one full of love and compassion. The charity foundation he established, the true value of money, has grown tremendously over the past year. The foundation's name has not only been a slogan but has become an inspiration for many others. The foundation has helped thousands of children, abandoned children, those with no opportunity for education, and poor families unable to care for their children. Each project the foundation runs brings hope and new opportunities for those in need. He never expected that an innocent phrase from the boy, when he said that everyone deserves a second chance, could create such a significant change. That phrase, simple yet profound, became the mirror for his actions and for the charity's work. Thousands of children have been helped thanks to his kindness and determination. The foundation not only provides material assistance but also creates career development opportunities, supports education, and encourages self-reliance and resilience for the disadvantaged. The story of the foundation has become an inspiring tale for many, showing that love and care can change the lives of many, just as the boy has changed his life. Although his charity has thrived and he has found new successes in life, his name on magazine covers has changed. He used to be known as the most powerful CEO, a title linked to wealth and power. But now, he is no longer that man. On the cover of Forbes magazine, he is now called the man with the biggest heart. This is not a title for someone wealthy or powerful, but for someone who has found balance in life, who knows how to love and care for those around him. That name reflects the person he is now, not someone who lives only for himself but someone who lives for others, who creates real value for the community. This is an acknowledgement he never thought he would receive, but looking back, he understands that it is the most deserving reward he could ever receive. Reflecting on everything he has been through, he cannot help but remember a punch the poor boy, now his son, threw into his cold heart. It wasn't a physical punch, but a psychological one, breaking down the protective walls he had built for so many years. It was a punch from innocence, from the pure heart of a child, that made him realize that life is not just about money and power, but also about love and sharing. That boy had awakened a man who had been asleep, helping him to be reborn through love. Thanks to that punch, he has found the truth about life. About values he never recognized before. Now, he is not just a father, but a happy, fulfilled man, full of love. Life sometimes brings opportunities and challenges we cannot predict. But it is in the most difficult moments, when our hearts seem frozen, that a small act or a loving word can melt everything. The story of him and the poor boy, about forgiveness and family love, is proof that love can heal all wounds, change destinies, and create miracles. This is not just their story, but all of ours. When we open our hearts, when we give love and care, those actions will be the solid foundation for a better world. When the door to life opens, he realizes that what he is looking for is not wealth or fame, but love and connection. His story, from a cold and lonely man, has become an inspiring journey about forgiveness, family love, and actions for the community. Just one punch from the poor boy, now his son, has changed his life forever. And those changes, the good things they have brought to the community, have helped him become a man not only famous for power but also for his open heart and overflowing love. This story ends, but the journey of love and change continues. And now, the story of him and the boy can be an inspiration for all of us. Remember, within each of us lies the power to change our lives, to turn a punch into a chance for rebirth, and to give away the love we have. If you feel inspired by this story, share this message of love and hope with those around you. Love and sharing not only change our lives but also create a better world for everyone. Follow Heart Glow, where stories and life lessons are shared to ignite the flame of love in every heart. With us, you can also be part of this journey and help create a united community where love and understanding always lead the way. Hit like and subscribe so you never miss inspiring stories and meaningful messages from Heart Glow. Let your love shine and spread, as together we write stories full of humanity.